World Refugee Day. World Refugee Day is an international day designated by the United Nations to honor refugees around the world. It falls each year on June 20th and celebrates the strength and courage of the people who have been forced to flee their home country to escape conflict or persecution. World Refugee Day is an occasion to build empathy and understanding for their plights, to recognize their resilience in rebuilding their lives.
What is a refugee? According to the UN Refugee Convention, the definition of a refugee is someone who, owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion, is outside the country of his nationality, and is unable to, or owing to such fear, is unwilling to avail himself of the protection of that country. Article 1 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees.
World Refugee Day. Together we heal, learn and shine. Access to healthcare and medical support saves lives.
Good morning everyone. I am Fiza Fahad from 8A and today I am going to talk about the history of World Refugee Day. History has been placed upon us who have been spared the suffering of being uprooted and disposed, the binding responsibility of helping those who have. These are the words of the chairman of the Executive Committee of the International Committee on World Refugee Year. At the suggestions of two young Britishers, the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution designated the year ending in June 1960 as World Refugee Year. The Secretary General of United Nations has estimated that there were 40 million refugees at the end of World War II. 15 million of these still lack permanent homes. In May, the New York Times published a report on the observations of its correspondents around the world. Thank you.
Today is celebrated every on 20th June to remember the struggles faced and contributions made by the refugees around the world. And there are around a total of 70.8 million people who in the world spending their lives away from their homes as refugees. The most common reasons why people flee their native place are war, persecution, and terror, due to which they have to leave their homes and find shelter elsewhere. And the 1951 Refugee Convention and the protocols that came in effect in 1967 protect the refugees' rights worldwide. The rights states that refugees are to be treated in the same manner as other foreign nationals and nationals of the country. And the World Refugee Day is an international observation made to serve as a reminder and not as public holiday.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very warm good morning to one and all. I am Hiba Yunus from 8th A and today I am here to speak to you all about World Refugee Day. World Refugee Day is a day where we can support and celebrate the strength and courage of millions of refugees worldwide. There are currently 65 million people who have to leave their homes, and many have settled in new countries while others are still in the refugee camps waiting for it to be safe enough to go back home or to settle in a new country. United Nations decided that refugees should have a special day, and the first Refugee Day was celebrated on 20th of June 2001, and it's been celebrated every year since then. 65 million means that 1 in every 100 people is a displaced person or a refugee. Now we are facing the worst refugee crisis in our history. The number of refugees have doubled in the last 20 years. And 55% of all refugees come from Syria, Afghanistan and South Sudan. It is very hard to deal with the crisis at such a high rate, but United Nations General Secretary Antonio Guterres reminds us that the problems are the war and hatred, not the people who had to flee. And Refugee Day is about raising awareness about the situation and letting the refugees know that together we can work to end the crisis and help the displaced people to find a safe and happy home. There are a lot of programs that are conducted worldwide on 20th of June. in many famous landmarks like the Eiffel Tower, for example, and the Empire State Building in New York are covered with blue lights, the color of United Nations. However, in Glasgow, Scotland, people hold their hands to form an enormous human chain in the George Centre in the city square to tell or to show the world that Scotland welcomes the refugees. There are also film showings, exhibitions and fundraising events. So what can we do to help the refugees? A few years ago, United Nations started a petition that is #WithTheRefugees, where people worldwide ask their governments to support refugees. So far, 2 million people have signed the petition, and many people also write letters to the government and also conduct a charity or donation that supports refugees. So I'd like to end my talk with a quote by a Tennessee officer in the refugee, and he said that to be called a refugee is not an insult. However, it's a badge for victory, courage and strength. Thank you and have a nice day.
I'm Saji from 8th. Why is World Refugee Day is important? The World Refugee Day sheds a light on refugees' rights, needs and hopes, aiding in mobilizing political will and support so that refugees will not only flourish but grow. Although it is critical to protect and strengthen the lives of refugees on a daily basis. International days such as the World Refugee Days serve to draw the public attention to the plight of those fleeing war or persecution. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Hadi Hari. I'm from 8A. Today I'm gonna ask some question about the World Refugee Day. What are the top 5 refugee hosting countries? The first question. Syria, Venezuela, Afghanistan, South Sudan and Myanmar are the answer to the first question. The second question is, when was the World Refugee Day created? The answer is World Refugee Day was held globally for the first time on June 20, 2001, commemorating the 5th anniversary of the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees. The third question is, what is the biggest refugee crisis? The answer is World War II. The fourth question is, where is the largest refugee camp in the world? The answer is Kutupalong. As more than 800,000 refugees arrived in the Cox's Bazar region of Bangladesh, Kutupalong became the world's largest refugee camp. The fifth question is, which country has the most refugees in 2020? The answer is Turkey. Turkey hosts the largest number of refugees with 3.6 million people. Colombia is second with 1.8 million, including Venezuelans displaced abroad. Thank you.
How is World Refugee Day is celebrated? Every year, World Refugee Day is celebrated with a series of activities in many countries around the world with the honor of refugees. These events are led or participated in by immigrants, government officials, hostess groups, school children, businesses, actors, and the members of general public, among others.
Good morning. How can we help refugees? Lend a hand, be their friend. Reach out to refugees in your community. Consider welcoming them to dinner or spending a couple of days in your guest room if they are in search of place to rest. Introduce them to the local community so they can get to know their new surroundings more easily. Use your job to make difference. We can also use our professional skills to improve the lives of others. If you own a business or are a hiring manager, you may also consider employing local refugees who are in need of work. Thank you.